Decide like a chess master. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. A little bit of disconnectivity, so I'm sure my face just pixelated and got really strange. Today is day 144 of our Supersize You annual challenge, and we are talking about decision making and the importance of doing it strategically, not just randomly making decisions. I don't know if we've talked about it or not, but how quickly we make decisions is an indicator of how successful we are and how successful we're going to be. They've done studies, of course, scientists study everything, and they have found that successful people are people that make decisions quickly and change their mind very slowly, or never change their mind at all. They make a decision, they go all in on something, and then they just do that thing, and they figure it out along the way. No matter what it takes, they make sure that it happens. They achieve their goals and objectives. That's part of the definition of success, at least in my mind. Less successful people, or people that are struggling and failing or having a lot more lessons learned than others, tend to make decisions extremely slowly and then change their mind really fast. So the people that come into our life, or maybe that's you, and you buy something on an impulse, but then you return it the next day because you're like, okay, I just impulsively got that. I really don't want it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to take it back. And then you take it back and return it. I have an interesting mix of people in my life, a collection of people in my life, mostly relatives, because I look for these patterns in family members, because we don't choose our relatives. They're the family we're born into, and they are what they are, just like we are who we are, and we get to decide what skills and abilities we're going to develop and which ones we're just going to let kind of fade away. But there's people in my family who are very slow decision makers, but actually really quick when it comes to buying into things like fads and collectibles and things that something or someone outside of them tells them are good or important. The truth is, we need to have our own internal compass that helps guide us in our decision making. I do both. I guess I am a mix of flexibility and a combination of goofiness, but I tend to decide. I can't say like a chess master, because I never mastered the game of chess, never gave it enough time and energy to master it. But I understand the concept of, you know what your current move is, but you also have considered 1, 2, 3 moves ahead. What are the consequences? What is your opponent going to do if you make this move? And not only if you make this move, but the next one and the next one. That's an incredibly unique perspective and a different way of looking at things. And we don't want to get too carried away with this, but we want to understand how, if I change something about myself or my life, how is that going to impact the people that are closest to me? Guess what? Some people, as we grow and expand and become a better version of ourselves, actually fall out of our life. And it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Our environment and the people we spend the most time with have an incredibly large impact on us. It's because we choose those people, and when we choose to put ourselves in situations that aren't good for us, we are choosing to follow those same decisions and that same life strategy. And it is hard and challenging to actually question that. You know, your friends from college, the things you did in college, you probably have outgrown by now, so maybe they're just a touch point, but they're not the people or the person that you talk to every single day. If you have a negative friend or a downer person in your life, you don't cut them out, but you also limit the amount of time that you spend with them, and you protect yourself in some way. I know people, I've had coaching clients like this that just suck the life out of us. And after every session, I would have to go for a walk in nature or do something to let the negativity out. And luckily, I was able to help most all of those people to change their point of view, to change their perspective, to look at things from a more optimistic versus pessimistic filter. Most of us, when we're being negative, it's just old patterns that we're running over and over and over again. And it's because something triggered it in us, and then we just click into that old pattern automatically and start behaving and thinking and acting in ways that might have been fine for us when we were 20, but at 60-something, they're just not okay anymore. Plus, we know better. We've had all kinds of different experiences to stack on top of that to show us, okay, yeah, that was maybe only a little cringy when we did it in our 20s, but if we do it in our 60s, it's a lot cringy and almost unacceptable. Guess what? We get to decide what those guidelines and what those things are for us. Nobody else, nobody outside of us. We get to choose for ourselves. So, how do you decide like a chess master? I'm going to propose a 5-step process because we know I love processes. And I challenge you to do this today and then share in the comments below one decision that you make strategically today. I challenge you to make a strategic, conscious decision today in any area or aspect of your life. Maybe you decide that you're invited to something, but you're not going to go. And you're not going to go because there's something that you have that's a higher priority that you're going to commit to doing today. That would be an example. So how do we go about doing this? Before I jump into that, the 5-step process, let's talk about how do we make the best possible decisions for us and how do we make balanced decisions over time. Consider several factors, and I like to think a few moves ahead. I don't get bogged down and frozen in inaction because I don't know what the next step is. I always know what the next step is, but sometimes I can get into trouble because I'll take that next step before I have considered, and I don't do this very much anymore, but I used to in the past. I just was action, 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 and then I'd fix it if I broke something, which I did often. And sometimes it was an easy fix, sometimes it was a painful fix. I always learned. If it didn't work, I always learned a big lesson, and it almost felt like the mistakes I've made in my life were the mistakes I've needed to make in order to become a better version of me, a better person. And geez, that's hard to admit, isn't it? Not looking in the mirror so I can do it. So we want to, when we make decisions, we want to consider several factors. What is the long-term, and not just the immediate result we're going to get or we expect to get, that for sure. But then what is the long-term impact and how does the action we're taking tie into our vision, our actual vision for this area and aspect of our life? How does the current reasons that we want to make this decision, how do those play out right now? Risk to, how much risk tolerance do we have? I am not I'm not risk averse, but I'm not a huge risk taker, which is really funny because a lot of people think that I take a lot of risks, but I don't. I weigh my decisions pretty well and research my decisions pretty well, especially if it's a big decision or a strategic or directional decision. What's the opportunity cost of doing this thing or not doing this thing? And again, we don't want to just consider it for now, but this first action, but then what is the probable next step I'm going to have to take? And what is the actual impact or cost of that? Most people don't do that. They just react and do the first thing that pops into their mind or the next thing that they can do or they think they should do without actually thinking about, is this taking me down the road I want to go down? Or is this diverting my attention and taking me down a path that I'm going to have to jump back on my right path from? I do that like often, very often. I think I've shown the little graphic of how we think our attention and decision about anything is going to go versus how it actually goes. So, what are these 5 steps? Number 1, we want to ask ourselves, I need my mic. I need my microwave. I need my mic. I need my coffee this morning, no doubt. I need my magnifying glass. The first thing we want to do is identify what is it that we want. What's our desired outcome? Secondly, we want to look at 3 possible paths that we could take. Why 3? Because we want to queue up immediately that we have more than one alternative. There's a lot of different paths we could go on, a lot of different ways we could deal with this situation, this challenge, this goal, or this objective, whatever it is that we're working on or making a decision about. We want to look at the second and third order of consequence of us doing or taking this action. Just like a chess master, just like somebody playing chess or even checkers or any game, sometimes we think a few moves ahead. I do that in cards, I notice. I automatically play a few options in cards, and I always want to make sure in my hand that I have more than one play, no matter what the person I'm playing with lays out there or puts out there for a card. Fourth, we want to ask ourselves which of the 3 that okay, kind of like the SOAP framework, right? Where are we? Where do we want to be? What are the possible, let's brainstorm possible outcomes. We're going to pick 3, right? And then we're going to ask ourselves which one aligns with our long-term vision, and then we're going to decide. We're just going to pick one and take action on it. This is a great example of the SOAP framework, the 4-step SOAP framework process, but in 5 steps, right? We just added the take action, which, no, I guess action's in our SOAP framework too, duh. All right, that is it. That's what we're doing today. And then share in the comments below one decision that you make today, even if it's a tiny one, like what am I going to eat for breakfast? How did you strategically make that decision? I actually run through this process almost automatically. So for example, I haven't eaten breakfast yet, but I'm definitely going to have coffee. And when I decide what I'm going to eat for breakfast, I'm going to filter it through what I think is good for me, how I think it's going to make me feel the rest of the morning. Is it going to give me energy or make me feel tired and lethargic? Because there's more than 3 possible alternatives for breakfast, but each one of those will make me feel differently. If I eat a giant breakfast in the morning, sometimes it energizes me and gets me moving, other times not. And so I want to consider that. What's my energy like before I eat breakfast? Things like that. All right, that is our topic for today. Strategic decision making. How strategic on a scale of 1 to 10 do you think that you make most of your decisions? I'm going to give myself a 5. And that's only because I tend to make decisions based on my head, my heart, and my intuition. My gut gets to play a part. And sometimes my head, my heart, and intuition are not aligned, but I need to make a decision anyway. And if they're not, every time I do that, whatever area I ignored was usually the area that I should have been paying the most attention to and given myself a little more time to make a different, better decision. All right, if I can help you in any way, hit me up and ask. Otherwise, have an awesome day. And I will, of course, be with you tomorrow.